I knew that the presentation was doomed from the very first moment. And what was unfortunate to me was that this person had a great amount of credibility in their field. They were considered a legend among their direct reports, and they had worked so strenuously to get to this level to be able to flop in the presentation. Now, I'm saying all this to say that it could happen to anyone, and I'm not going to talk about this particular person a whole lot, but I'm going to talk to you about what I have seen time and time again, and in particular, what I'm going to demonstrate from a behavioral level so it doesn't happen to you. This is a cautionary tale, my friends, and this is the guy standing on the side of the road holding the sign that if you do these things, the end draweth nigh for you. And your professional credibility and the way that your direct reports see you, and heck, even if you have people that want you to speak at their events because of some notoriety that you've built up in your career, this is going to kill it. And what I mean is the most common and damaging habits that happen to executives when they speak. Now, I'm not just talking about speak in terms of keynotes or some sort of fancy speech somewhere. I mean, even in the day-to-day with regard to your all-hands meetings or your daily briefings or even your team's meetings where you're divvying up work. These habits will cause your communication judgment to be massively impacted. People will judge you. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. People are judging you. They're judging how you speak. They're judging the confidence that you display. They're judging your level of confidence based on how competently you handle the wordage, all the things, the words. So that's what my specialty is. I don't know how to do your job, but I certainly know how to make you sound like you know how to do your job. So I'm going to give you these, and I don't want to say that they're in any particular order. I just jotted this down and kind of workshopped these just to give you some help because these are the most common ones that I see. So the first one is failure. I hate saying this one. This is the one that I'm most worried about saying because I think for those of you that are data heavy, I think you're going to misread this and assume that I mean prepare a lot more. But the first common mistake is a failure to prepare anything. And I don't mean a failure to over-prepare. I mean getting up there and flying by the seat of your pants. Some people can do that. I am almost positive you can't. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But what I'm going to kind of dive into this a little bit better is this failure to plan. A lot of you feel that you can put on the same level the way you are in a group and just talking to your direct reports and interacting with who you would be when there's more than one person there or when you are speaking to a larger audience. Those are two very, very different things. Because what you must realize is the moment that it goes from being a conversation that just pops up out of nowhere to something with a plan, like think of a meeting, think of a briefing, think of a process overhaul. The moment that it goes from informal to formal, there's some expectations that go along that. And if you don't have some sort of a clear path of what that's going to look like, you're going to end up running a meeting that most certainly should have been an email. And it's going to make people think that you didn't care enough to prepare. I've spoken to a lot of executives, and one of the things that I will hear, and this is why I say you're probably not this way, you're probably not able to be one of those 5% of people that can just get up and speak with no problem, no plan, nothing on a note card. And believe me, I can't either. So I'm not throwing stones. If I have to run a meeting, I'm running a big meeting on Monday night at the church. I'm running a couple meetings in the coming weeks. If I get up there with no plan, it's not going to go well. Now, will it be awful? I can't say, because I've never gotten up without some sort of a plan, even if it's a little plan. So I'm just saying, getting up without some sort of a practice or some sort of a plan. Most of us can't do that because it's not that we can't speak and connect. It's that we are not good enough to have a clear-cut agenda off the top of our heads. So I'll give you some things to consider and how I use the word plan. I don't think you should over-prepare. I don't think you should spend 25 hours working on your 20-minute meeting. I don't think you should memorize your talk. But I think when you get up to do any kind of talk, you have to have some sort of list of bulleted, rehearsed points of things that are of value to the people that you're speaking to, especially as an executive, because it's going to make you look, unfortunately, and no one's going to tell you this, but I will, it's going to make you look as though you don't value people's time. And that is irritating. Just because your name is at the bottom of their check doesn't mean you are going to get their respect. So you want to make sure that you value people's time. And your knowledge here is not going to help you. So a lot of times people will say, well, I know more about the project. I know more about the briefing. You do. But if that's not organized in a way that I can digest as a person going to your meeting, you've lost me. And more importantly, you've lost the credibility of caring that you actually thought about it to begin with. So that's the first one, is going in without any kind of a plan or rehearsal or preparation. And I would recommend GEMO, good enough to move on. You want just enough preparation where it will make you confident that you have an agenda, but not so much that if you miss one point, everything falls apart. You don't want to do that. All right, so that's the first one. I said these weren't in any order. I don't want to do this. Yeah, I said these weren't in any order, but this one is probably the one that I hate the worst. It's for me. I don't know. I mean, I didn't do any research of like what Stanford or Yale would rate these at in terms of what has the biggest damage to your speaking. I don't know which one of these would fall into that category, but I will tell you that this one kills me right off the bat, and that is reading from anything. Reading from anything, unless it's a quote. You get up and go, I want to read a story, and you open up a story and you say, George Washington said that in his farewell address, this country cannot be governed apart from. If you're reading a quote, sure, I'll give you that grace. But the moment that you get up to speak and you read something verbatim, you are done as a presenter. You're done. Because you're going to look down and guess what everybody else is going to do. Guess. Just go ahead. Guess. I'll wait. They're going to look down. They're going to look down. You're not looking at them, and they are not looking at you, because they realize that you're just going to read to them. And if you read to them, they're going to say, why the French didn't this guy or this gal just send me this in an email? I don't need to be here. I have other places to be. I have work. I have legitimate work. I have piles of stuff that I could do. I could be working on paperwork, or I could be at home, and here I am, and I'm getting read to like it's story time. Reading is devaluing your presence in front of people. And you might think that you're doing well because you're covering all the content. But I'm here to tell you, and I'll shout it from the rooftops, if you're reading, you are showing them that you have no mastery over the content and you are not present. So reading from paper, and in secondary, just reading anything, I said this, but this will be like 2B, reading your slides. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen folks who will show a slide and turn around and speak to the slide as they're reading it, as if I can't read that slide. It's one thing when you're reading notes that I can't access, but it's something entirely different when you turn around and you read a slide that I also can read. I'm like, are we doing karaoke right now? Or are we trying to follow the bouncing ball? I know I'm being a little bit facetious and kind of nasty. I'm sorry, I get heated about this because it's such an easy thing not to do. Just don't I would rather you just forget what you're covering and have a conversation. I'd rather you be more unprepared and just cover what you know than to cover the slide and read it in its entirety. It's going to make you look as though you have no idea what you're doing. It's going to make you appear as though it's amateur hour. My children, when they do stuff at school, they read. And they're children. They're 10 years down to 5 years. You are not a child. I don't think. If you are, we have to talk about child labor laws. But you're not a child. You have already, if you're an executive, you're already past the point of credibility. Now it's just a matter of that connection. So it's the reading. Don't read. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's the worst. It's the worst. I hate it. We'll talk about the slides. The third thing is, since we're on the subject of slides, overloaded slides. Okay, and we're coming back to, this is a lot of executives. This is technical executives, I'll be honest, like CISOs and CTOs and people that I've coached like that. Their slides are basically like the New Testament, really. Just that much text they put on a slide. And they'll show the slide and it's like 7-point font. And I look at it with my eyes and I look at them and I look at the slide. And of course, bonus, because they start reading the slide and I want to throw up in my mouth. I can't read that small font. And they'll say, well, the reason why the font is small is because, why? Well, because I have to squeeze it all onto one slide. No, you don't. Your slides should be a visual aid, not the spine of a presentation. Let me say it again. Your slides should be a visual aid, not the spine of your presentation. It should not comprise everything that you're saying. So your slides are better when they're pictures, bullet points, and I could do a whole entire episode on slides, but there's a rule that I learned at Dale Carnegie. It's 6x6. So no more than 6 lines, 6 points per slide, 6 lines, and 6 words per line. Even that's a little congested by today's standards. So when you hear that, when you look at it on a slide, you're going to go, this is all the time I have to work with? This is all that I have to work with? Yes. Because I am not reading your slide. Again, if you are going to put that kind of a thing on a slide, just leave it as a takeaway. It's something that you hand out. Give it as a handout. That's another effective visual aid that a lot of people don't do. Just make it a handout. Here's all that I was going to put on this slide, and then you make the slide the accent points. And AI is your friend on this. You can say, do a visually compelling slide, follow the 6x6 rule, don't overload my slide. And when, as an executive, you get up there with an overloaded slide, people are looking at the slide, they're distracted by it, they're trying to find where's Waldo or Carmen Sandiego in the slide, they look at you, you're reading, you're unconfident, the slide's a nightmare, there's no visual coherence to anything, and you lost your credibility. So an overloaded slide is a underwhelming presentation. Okay. These last couple are, well, I actually have quite a bit more, but I'm just trying to be discriminating, because do I want to give you all these? I guess I should give you all these. Each one of these could be their own episode. I should make each one of these their own episode, but I'm just going to run them. I'm sorry. I talked about not having a plan. I'm like, what do I talk about next? No, I have a plan. I just don't want to give you too much of the plan. So I'm over delivering. That's what this is. I'm not under preparing. I'm over delivering. This one you might not understand, but I'll explain it. Burying the recommendation, or not being audience centric. So again, if you are an executive, one of the things you want to aim for in terms of your presence when you're speaking and your presentation is being discriminating, cutting what actually makes it in the presentation. And one of the things that we do when we're executives is we bury the recommendation in other things. And this is not being audience focused, meaning we talk about background, we talk about methodology, we talk about frameworks, we talk about product placement, we talk about advertising. We give the whole story, the Gone with the Wind tome of all of the stuff. And then what happens is there's nothing in there about me at all as an audience member, as a direct report. I don't know what you want me to do with this. That's cool. It's cool that this is how Kellogg's was founded. Interesting how the printing press came to be. Love hearing about the nature of architecture in the 17th century. WIIFM, what's in this for me, dude? WIIFM, what's in it for me? With that, we're not audience-centered. We focus more on what we know, and we try to sound knowledgeable instead of sounding audience-focused. And the key is to look at what do they need to know to get what they want that aligns with the vision of the company. King on this right now, and I'm learning from him because I'm obsessed with him right now. Anybody that is close to me knows it. I'm really, really obsessed with Alex Hormozi right now. I have one of his books here. I'm ripping apart his book on $100 million leads. This is $100 million offers. I read this probably in like 2 days, took a ton of notes. I'm probably going to do like a book club of this because it's that good. It is that good. I want to just tell everybody how to do this with the offers. Every one of his books, he starts off with, before we start, here's what you're going to get out of this book, and here's how you want to use this book. And he says it so focused on me as the reader. It's like, hey, read this first. Hey, if you want more tactical stuff, go here. Hey, here's a chapter you're going to need to take notes on because it's information heavy. He says all of that, and you can tell that he's thinking of the reader. He's thinking of his potential client in mind before he publishes that book. And then what he does, which is even crazier, is at the beginning of each of these books, he'll define terms. So he spends a whole entire chapter on this book, $100 million offers, on what is an offer. He spends a whole chapter on the $100 million leads as what is a lead. And I say lead, you hear one thing and he might mean something else. So he goes through and explains why that is. Why is he doing that? Because he's thinking about me. He's not burying the recommendation. He's not burying what I should know in his own jargon. He's thinking, how do I make Sam, this dumb, not as skilled business person, how do I make that guy, how do I get him to get this so that his business is impacted? And every page is dripping with, do this in your business. Try this in your business. Here's a story of what happened to me, and you should try this in your, everything is about me. And executives often do a terrible job because what they think is they're transferring knowledge. That may be necessary in terms of processes, but what happens is you bury the recommendation in your information, and then because of it, we all stand up from the meeting, we dust ourselves off, and we go, what the heck are we supposed to do? Like, what does he want me to do different? What did she say? Does she want me to what? So burying the recommendation, that's not thinking of the audience first. What do you want them to do, and decide 30 to 60 seconds after your engagement with them is over. This is probably the biggest sin of executives because you are cursed with the knowledge. I mean, you're in that role because you know the industry. You're in that role because you know the history of the company. You're in that role because you often founded it. And now it has 35 employees, and there you are. And you can fill 30 minutes saying whatever you want, but if it's not focused on them, you're killing your credibility. Okay. Couple more. Okay, I'll skip that one. I've talked about that a lot. Okay, all right. Okay. Low energy, monotone. If you are not a presenter, like I'm a presenter, So when I run a meeting, like I'm running this church meeting, or even if I'm running the staff meeting, not if I'm present at the staff meeting, I'm present at the staff meeting and my operations pastor is running it. He runs it and I'm a good participant. But if I'm running it, my energy it's got to be high. And if that's not your this is my wheelhouse. So obviously, like if I'm speaking over the weekend or if I'm running a workshop, my energy is high. But if you know that I just want to get back to my thing and I don't want to be doing this crap, people will know. Hey, real quick, we just got to go over this. John, you're covering this, and Teresa, good job on this, and Joe, you did this. If you don't have the energy, people aren't going to tune into you. They're going to think you don't care, and it's going to come flat when you're speaking. And I've said it before, as a leader, your job is to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. I say this all the time. You're the one that's setting the tone. So nobody is coming into your staff meeting more excited to be there than you. Nobody. It's not going to happen. If you drag your knuckles into the staff meeting or to the all hands or to whatever, the product update or whatever it is, if you drag yourself into that, guess what your employees are going to do? Guess what your direct reports are going to do? They are going to be so unbelievably disengaged. And you are going to go, I don't know why these people are so freaking disengaged. I mean, we're doing really well here. Well, I listen to the way you talk and it doesn't sound like you're doing really well. One of the funniest things I'll do with people, I do this almost at every workshop when I'm coaching people on how they're speaking. They'll say, good morning. I'm really excited to be here and really thrilled to be with this amazing group of people. And it's, they'll say the pleasantries and I'll stop and I'll go, can I ask you a question? Just to see, I'm not being facetious. I'm just, have you ever heard someone that's excited? Do you know what that sounds like? Like, do you know what words mean? Because getting on good morning, I'm glad to be so excited. I'm thrilled to be thrilled. Like James Patterson books are thrilling. This introduction is not thrilling. So you want to make sure that your energy is in proportion to how engaged you want them to be. Monotone delivery is a killer of engagement. So keep that in mind. Next, oh man, again, all these, I have whole episodes. Go back where this is like episode 70. Body language, not paying attention to your body language. Any example? There was a guy one time that somebody reached out to me to coach him because every time, I'm not exaggerating, and I want to tell you, I'd like to tell you that this only happened once. It didn't. And this happened to me one time at the church. I'll talk about the church one because it's far removed. This is years and years ago. Somebody said, hey, this person, every time they teach or speak, they grab their crotch. Don't go to the church anymore, so I don't have to deal with it anymore. But it wasn't anything profane. I'm sorry to say it. It wasn't anything like gross. It was a tick. It was like a habit. They would just grab at their pants, the front of their pants. And it looked like they were grabbing their crotch. Not like Michael Jackson. It wasn't dramatic. Like they didn't go crazy. They didn't go ham. It wasn't a dance move. It was more like picking at it, like picking a wedgie from the front. This is a bad visual. I'm not doing go with the visuals here, but just know it wasn't profane. It wasn't anything that Lady Gaga or Madonna would do. It's nothing like that. It was just distracting. And when they were approached about it, they didn't know that they did not know that they did that because they didn't do it. Like if you're sitting there talking to them, they're not just going to town on their Levi's. Do you know what I'm saying? But when they were speaking, because they weren't looking at what was happening with their body went into autopilot and did something that it normally wouldn't do. I've told stories about this before. So many executives have things that they do, but because they've never looked at themselves on video, because they can't stomach that, or because nobody has the chutzpah to actually bring it to their attention, they have these body language things and nobody's talking about it. Well, I will tell you, if I'm coaching you, I'm going to tell you, you have a tendency to do this because that's what you're paying me for the coaching. You're not paying me because of my winsome personality. You're paying me because you want me to identify these things. So identifying your body language defaults, your deficits is huge. Not applying any body language is also a problem. Meaning if you're sitting there and your hands are folded and you don't move, you're just kind of like a hot dog standing up there. that's also devastating. So you want to make sure that you're as engaged with your body as you are with your message. And you want to use your hands to the degree that it's not distracting, where it's congruent. You want to use your face, smile, nod your head, do gestures. Oh, I was going out of my mind, like with my hands up and out when I was thinking about this problem with our deliverables, right? Like, you want to engage your body because it's your greatest visual aid. It goes with you wherever you go, even when you're on a screen like this. Like, I purposefully, when I'm on a screen, I purposely want to make sure I'm using body language, because when people are speaking a lot of times online, they don't do that. And I'm like, you're crazy, because this is all I have. I mean, I don't care if it's a little tiny phone that you're watching me on, or if you're watching me on a 4K monitor like the one I have here. Your body language, your body stays with you. So you want to use body language, and poor body language becomes distracting. Fidgeting, those defaults, the things you do, terrible. All right. Okay. Couple more. I'll make these last two on the quicker side. This is already a longer video. I feel like I'm overloading you, but again, I over prepared. I'm over delivering. So if you got nothing else out of this episode, if you're an executive speaker, if you do these things better, you're going to kill it more than most people. So next is weak openings or closings. I've talked ad nauseum about openings and closings in different episodes. When I coach people, I say, how are you going to open this? How are you going to open that? How are you going to close it? They usually don't give it a thought. Why? What are we thinking about? We're thinking about the middle. We're thinking about the meat in the sandwich, but we're not thinking about the bread on each side. The opening and the closing determines engagement. If you open strong, it's going to keep them engaged. If you open weekly, hey, how's everybody doing? Glad to see you. This is more for a presentation. But even in a meeting, hey, thought about squirrels. Why do squirrels spend so much time gathering nuts or acorns or whatever? And like, just starting with something that's startling. And I have different openings and closings we can get to, but most people don't give them thoughts. They just focus on the meat. And because of that, it opens boring and it closes boring. Closings, call to actions, what do you want them to do, recaps, million different closings, AI is your friend, but you have to think through that as a part of your preparation. It's usually the thing that gets put on the back burner, and because it does, it doesn't get done. It doesn't get addressed. It doesn't get utilized. And then you're ending up with a problem of disengagement. Last and not least, this is the whole entire purpose of my company. That's why I called it what I called it. That's why I still really hammer this with every executive, is data dumps over stories. Data dumps over stories. So many of you have a breadth of experience as executive leaders with your industry, to the point where you could fire off business trends and cyber concerns, cybersecurity concerns. You can round off some money stuff and start talking about money and numbers and data and data and data and more data and upcoming projections and this and that. And because you're oftentimes the one that's at the head of the table, you're the one that's setting the projection for the company, you're living and breathing that stuff, you're forgetting one very, very important thing. If your data doesn't tell a story, people will not connect with it. Let me say that again. If your data doesn't tell a story, people will not connect with it. They need to hear how the data matters, how it matters to them, how it matters as a whole, what that data even means regarding people and their place. And I've said this before, I'm working with an organization right now. I'll probably talk about it more in the future, but we're talking about ways for them. They're kind of bringing me on to help them revamp some of their existing meetings. It's a pretty big organization. And I said, you're missing out on stories. You have so many people that are connected with this organization. every single week is an opportunity to highlight a story. And you get more mileage out of one good story than you do out of 5,000 pages of data. I know that sounds terrible. If you're a CTO, or if you are a CISO, or if you are, a CFO, any of those highly data intense people, you probably just felt like I shot an arrow through your heart. But I'm telling you, most people, they're not moved by data as much as they're moved by what that data means. So your job when you're speaking is not the data dump, it's to illustrate the importance of that data with a story. Even if it's a small story, even a story that seems insignificant. Remember, stories can be massaged. I'm not talking about exaggerating or lying, but stories serve the storyteller. You can tell different parts of the story. You can accordion the story out and tell more details. You can bring the story in and tell less details. Stories are the greatest tool of any speaker. That's why the name of the company that I built is called Glint Storytelling Group. That's literally the name, because I know I'm a writer. I know the power of story. I've written novels. I know the power of story. I know when we're kids, we learn things by stories. When we're adults, we demonstrate by telling, let me tell you a story about how this person came to work and what happened to them, right? So stories are an underutilized tool in the executive's communication toolkit. And just like you have that data, well, you have stories. You know the stories, and use them at leisure as much as you can, and let your communication be transformed. So I've given you so many things, and I don't want to keep overloading you, but I have coached hundreds and hundreds of people on all of these things and more. But if you do nothing else, then listen to this and heed my warnings. You are going to communicate better than probably 95% of all executives that you know. But you have to be willing to make a change. You could do that with me. You could get there quicker than most people and actually make lasting changes. But it requires you to be willing to change. And as an executive, that's what you do. So my calendar link is in the show notes. I'd love to work with you. I would love to train your team on some of this stuff. I'd love to show you how to run a meeting that actually engages people. But if not, do these things and do them on repeat often. Fix the broken communication problems and transform your credibility, and stop falling into the gap between your competence and your level of communication. That's what I'm here to help solve, and I hope today I solved a little bit of that for you. So until next time, thank you for tuning in.